The views and opinions expressed do not necessarily represent those of Access Fort Wayne, the Allen County Public Library, or any other supporting group. Access Fort Wayne is a department of the Allen County Public Library. If you or anyone you know might be interested in making a television show, please call 260-421-1250.
Hi, Dr. Rudy Kachmann. Welcome to the show today. This will be very interesting. We'll be speaking about the history and science of milk. You know, we're all milk drinkers, some stopped, but the science is changing, and I'd like to review it with you a little bit. Is it healthy? Should we be drinking every day, for example? And let's be open-minded. Make up your own mind. I'm not the final word, but I have two great references here that maybe you'd like to read. And I made a PowerPoint for them, History and Science of Milk here. You could get a copy of this free at the Three Rivers Pharmacy. Speak to Sheila Walker, tell her I sent you, and you might like one yourself, so you can renew your knowledge, for example. The first book is Whitewash. It's a fantastic book. When I read this a number of years ago, it really opened my mind to new knowledge about the science and history of milk. It's by a gentleman named Joseph Keon, Joe Keon, Whitewash. And the next one is Milk, the 10,000-Year Food Fracas Food Fight, okay, by Mark Korlansky. There's the history of milk there. I think the two together make an excellent read. So let's go on this path together, be open-minded, and have a discussion. Milk has been in our history going back a good 10,000 years, okay? It's been the most discussed food in history. Yeah, it's constantly in the news, and it's the most regulated of all foods by the government. Interesting. Most milk drinkers are mainly of European extraction, so it's sort of a Eurocentric world. So we are more likely to spread the word about what's proper to eat and drink. Most of the world, though, has lactose intolerance. They are intolerant of the sugar in milk, lactose, and that makes it a problem. So, in which is the natural condition of all mammals. There are about 5,400 mammals, and for them to drink the milk of another mammal is a problem. It could even kill you. If you go to a zoo and you give the milk of one mammal to another species, it will kill you. All veterinarians know that. We humans tolerate, some of us tolerate a bit, but it's a real problem. And so genes, genetic structures shut down the production of lactose at age 4. They stop breastfeeding. All mammals essentially stop breastfeeding, and the gene shuts off in most of the mammals, and that's a problem. And then they're intolerant, can't metabolize the sugar. So the Europeans, the North Africans, people from India, they have no genes that stop lactose production, so they continue to produce lactose, and they're more likely to continue to drink milk. But other peoples, Asians, for example, that they don't. So let's go back in history a little bit. And Hera, the Greek goddess, is thought to have spilled milk while breastfeeding Hercules. and that produced our Milky Way, our galaxy. Okay, so look up, you'll see the spilt milk from thousands of years ago. Okay, lactose, the milk sugar is made from glucose, which we have in many other foods, and galactose. Okay, but human milk has more lactose than most other milks. Okay, there are 5,400 mammals. They all make different milk, and we are the only mammal who drinks the milk of another mammal. Mm-hmm. You think there could be problems? Yes, there could be, okay? It's our first food. That's what babies get. Let me tell you this thing about vaginal birth, okay, natural birth versus C-section, okay? When the baby's head goes through the vagina, nature has designed it so its face is covered with bacteria, especially bacteria that could digest some of our food. Milk, for example, which is their first milk. Other babies are born by C-section, so they don't have those bacteria. Our biome, remember, our trillions of bacteria living in there, they're alive. They're our buddies. They determine our digestion, okay? And if we don't have that lactose enzyme to digest milk, the C-section born babies, they get problems. Mm-hmm. They get weight problems. They get diseases. They're more likely to get type 1 diabetes, for example. Mm-hmm. Even the Bible has some stories in there about milk. Very interesting. There are about 20 references on milk and honey, okay? About 50 references to milk alone. So that's very interesting in history. So the milks are made of a combination of protein, carbohydrate, and fat, but the ratio among them is totally different. Some is more fat, some is more protein, some are more carbohydrates. Like goat milk, for example, has about 3 times the protein than cow's milk. Interesting. The protein, for example, in milk from plants is much higher than the protein in milk. For example, I brought with me in a container of pea milk, which I put in my coffee and I drink periodically. It's got 10 grams of pea protein per serving, which is very interesting. So it's different in different milks, okay? And I'm going to discuss this a little further as we go along, okay? Cows, sheep, goats, buffalo are considered ruminants. They drink the milk of their mother, for example. They have different stomachs. They have a number of stomachs so that they can digest it. For the ruminants, the cows, sheep, and goats, which have 4, and camels and llama have 3. A horse and a donkey has 1 stomach. We have 1, okay? And a cow will produce naturally 3 to 4 gallons a day. But what do we do with the cows? We put them in cages. We put pesticides out there and herbicides and growth factors. We don't let them move, and they can produce large amount of milk. 10 times or more, 20 times or more. I think the record is 100 times more when they are cage fed. So milk is power. A lot of money involved in milk. A lot of money involved. So what do? We separate the mother from the child at birth. You think that's cruel? Cows have emotions. When you look in their eyes, when you do that, they start screaming, the baby starts screaming, tears are coming down, but it increases milk production. Remember, there's money involved here. It increases milk production, okay? And in the ancient world, they even used wet nurses, someone you hire to give milk to the baby. That goes back thousands of years. Also, some were bottle fed. Yeah, they found the bottles. Yeah, over 2,000 years old, babies could be bottle fed. And what are some milk products, for example? Yogurt. Okay, we use live cultures of bacteria in milk and some cultures in fermentation, and we have yogurt. I have some, but just watch the sugars they add to it. But pure yogurt can be healthy, but still, if you're allergic to milk, it's a problem. Okay, butter is well-preserved milk fat. That is butter. Okay, and only salted butters last for any length of time. But now we also make butter from plants. Almond butter, for example. Buttermilk is churned milk, buttermilk. We've all had some, and it tastes quite good on a sandwich, for example. I've had some. Let's talk about yogurt, for example. How healthy are yogurts? Read the labels. A lot of them have a lot of sugar in them, so you don't want those that add fruit to it, which adds a lot of sugar. And the fat content varies, so read the labels. All yogurt has some sugar in it, but read the amount of fat that's in there. And in the Middle East, in the Mediterranean, yogurt is the main milk product. Yogurt is the main product. And there's protein in milk called casein, and whey. It's about 80% casein, though. And Colin Campbell, who wrote the book China Study, and he studied the Chinese cultures greatly, says casein is very carcinogenic. Found so especially in the Philippines. A lot of liver cancer was associated with casein in milk. And whey is about 20% of the protein in milk. Rennin, an amino acid, is used to fuse proteins and make cheese. Without rennin, no cheese. Okay, so we make cheese from cows, goats, and sheep milk. They seem to make the best cheeses. Butter and yogurt preceded cheese in history, going back in history. Greece, the Mediterranean, Italy, France, mainly olive oil dominates, so they don't eat much cheese, okay? Butter isn't used there, for example. Germans, myself having a German heritage, are avid butter eaters, and believe me, when I lived in Germany, and even with my German parents in New York, butter eating was a big thing, okay? Milk has been used in church services instead of wine. They will use milk. In history, that's been done. Cheeses are mainly from whey protein. Ricotta cheese, for example, is recooked cheese, in case you want to learn something there. But cheese, is about 80% fat and can even be addictive. Yeah, there are casomorphones in cheese, and there are some people that are addicted to cheese. So, a certain amount of cheese, okay, but if you eat it regularly, people can become addicted to it, and it's 80% fat. You could gain a lot of weight and be unhealthy. And the Bedouins, they were desert dwellers. They had entirely milk diets, camels. They used their milk, and they lived on it. Interesting. What's the U.S. history of cows? There were no cows when Columbus came. He brought them here. Yeah, he brought them here. But there were goats and there were sheep. But they didn't milk them. I don't know why. No one used, we had bison too. We didn't use their milk. And llamas were in South America, and their milk wasn't used either. So from Alaska to Patagonia, the main reason was lactose intolerance. It made them sick. So they did not, and you can get a number of illnesses from GI diseases, etc. So they had much better things to eat. Here's one for you. Let's have a laugh now and then, okay? Believe it or not, some human females breastfed piglets and puppies. That's in history. That's in history. That's how they stayed alive. Then ice cream was invented. It's a combination of fat and sugar, as we all know. And believe me, I love it as much as anybody else, but try to limit it. In New York was the first ice cream parlor. And I grew up in New York City, and they had quite a few of those. And they were very popular, not much as today. So how did they increase milk production? How did they continue to make money from making milk? They established feedlots. Yeah, where you would put one cow after another. I've been to one and watched this, and to me, that's a bit of cruelty. They don't let them out. They don't walk around. They don't, and they spray pesticides and herbicides and growth hormone to do what? Increase the production of milk, and which it does. So they have these today, and many of them are fed suit troughs of food going by. So, and then they'll have genetically modified corn going by, which is not healthy, and milk itself has in it about 50 hormones. You think that will cause a change in you or your child when you drink it? Yeah, about 50 hormones. Then they add hormones to it and growth hormone to make it grow. And these growth hormones, if you drink the milk, then affect the child or the adult, and especially a child starting to drink milk at a young age from cows could have tremendous growth, much bigger than they normally would have been, and the body is not accustomed to that and can result in other things like a child getting acne, increased rates of diabetes. So it's a lot of difference whether your child is breastfed. It's best to breastfeed till age 2 because the fats in human milk have more omega-3, the healthy fats. The milk from cow's milk has more omega-6, the bad fats, and the child will reflect in diseases. So it's much more cancer, much more diabetes, much more obesity in children who are raised in cow's milk. So the hormones can tremendously affect a growing child, for example, that are naturally in milk and the ones that we add to it, okay? So the cattle are getting genetically modified corn, C4, which was natural hundreds of years ago. Now it's been changed, and the proteins, carbohydrates, and sugars are different, but our bodies aren't used to it. C4, that's been thousands of years, that type of corn, but now it's been genetically modified corn, and our bodies can't adapt to it, okay? And then you have different types of farms. And the amount of feces from cows, the amount of urine from cows that flood the fields and then result in the rivers has tremendous impact. And the gases, the methane that a cow releases has tremendous effects on a global warming, for example. A cow puts out about 86 pounds of feces a day, 45 gallons of urine a day. You think that has some environmental impact? Unfortunately, I think so. Then industry get involved, and they were saying that manufactured milks, feedlot milks, were a lot healthier than milk from cows. So they were brought out, and Senator Ed Kennedy in Congress took on Nestle Company, which try to make a lot of milk. And then they added things to it so that you would ask to drink more. And they got to be a real big food fight years ago. Some people, and I've heard Colin Campbell, I think Michael McGregor, famous people on nutrition, call milk, it's liquid meat. It's in their books. It's in their book. Well, isn't it really? Okay. And many researchers say, and I reiterate again, cows put about 300 to 400 pounds daily of greenhouse gases. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Growth hormone is about 25% higher in cow's milk. Okay. And the hormones that we give them increase the udder size to tremendously increase there, to the point that some of the cows have to wear bras. That's true. I've seen pictures of it. And there are some forms of encephalopathy called BSE due to chemicals that are in milk. So I try to give you a little bit of some of the history, and you can read much more in this book by Mark Kolansky. It goes back 10,000 years. And the government get involved tremendously in supporting the price of milk. They have 3 or 4 or 5 government programs where they give farmers money to increase milk production. But the point is they're overproducing milk now. Because of that, the government took the extra milk and gives it to the schools. A lot of it for free. That changes from time to time. And giving what may not be, make up your own mind something not too healthy, give to children because of industry. And so then this book by Joe Keon comes along, Whitewash, which I recommend you read. And in essence, underneath it, he says, the disturbing truth about cow's milk in your health. Mm-hmm. Full of scientific references. It's not just an opinion. He has a scientific proof in the references there. It's not a matter of opinion. And so the calcium paradox. The U.S. consumes high rate of dairy products, but has one of the highest bone fracture rates in the world. So this is not that milk gives you calcium products that you absorb and make your bones stronger. It seems to make it weaker, okay? For 80 years, they've been advertising with false information. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. This book wasn't around for 80 years, and many people haven't read it. I've read it probably 5, 6 times now. And then they had cooperation of the public school system because they got free milk. And the medical profession, we doctors pushed it. You go to most pediatricians and they'll say, did you drink how much milk is your child drinking? Even today, yes. My yoga instructor was telling me about her 3 children who had constantly having acne, ear infections, runny nose, asthma. And every time I visited her, she'd cancel because the kids were sick, had to go to the doctors, and on and on. And I was just reading this book, Whitewash, and I pointed out to her that milk sensitivity or allergy, whatever you want to call it, could do this. So I gave her this book to read. She read it. She stopped milk in the family. Guess what? It took about a month, and all the symptoms cleared, and they never came back. Yeah. Not that's the case in every child with an ear infection, but it's on the list. You got to look at it. So, so the schools, the medical profession, industry, they're all telling us falsely that milk is healthy. It was just a lie, okay? They're telling us that cow's milk builds strong bones and teeth. Largely false information, okay? It was ignorance on the basis of us health providers. We at least could have helped stop it. We did not, okay? in the U.S., we have a third of the children at least overweight. We have 30 million diabetics and probably 70 million that are pre-diabetic. But pre-diabetes and diabetes is the same. It's the same. The complications, serious complications of type 2 diabetes can be, blindness and cataracts and thyroid disease and heart attacks and strokes and amputations, liver and renal transplants. I could go on and on. Occur in pre-diabetes and diabetes, and high milk consumption is found in diabetics, and the lactose is not well metabolized, so a lot of times gluten and milk can be the cause of type 2 diabetes a person is developing. So, but we love milk. I remember my parents in New York had a delicatessen, and I was drinking always a lot of milk. It was laying there on the table when my friends came over, and they laid the food out, and always a lot of cheese, a lot of milk. I had acne, terrible. Milk can do that. I mean, no girl would kiss me because I had acne on my lips. That's not the cause of every case of acne, but a lot of it. When I stopped drinking milk, my acne cleared up, okay? In the U.S. daily, we drink about 30 ounces of milk, cheese, and butter, 600 pounds a year. That's what we're consuming. The American Diabetic Association, American Medical Association, and their food pyramid are based on a food myth. Science doesn't back that. You just read about it. And the National Osteoporosis Foundation promotes the milk myth. I think they get a lot of advertising money, I suspect. They get 2.5 million tax break a year. Colin Campbell, remember the China study, states the dairy industry corrupts the national nutritional policies. Interesting, okay? And remember, we are the only species that drinks the milk of another species. If you did that in the zoo, the animal would die. Veterinarians know better. We humans don't seem to know better. But in America, people are waking up. And America is indeed weaning. And we, in 1960, sales were quite a bit higher. It's steadily gone down from 35.5. We're down to about 20. Here's a graph. You can see that America is weaning of milk. A lot more people are not drinking any milk at all, or they're using plant milk. And with that, I'll discuss this here a little bit. I used to drink, say, almond milk, but I found out that I think I'm sensitive to nuts and develop a kidney stone. When I stopped that, and the protein is less in those milks. And here, this milk is, and I have no financial interest in this. I drink 2 different types of pea milk, actually. But I had this in the refrigerator today, so I brought this along. Boathouse Farms says, and they will, in some of these milks, they will add things, so you got to read the labels. They'll add sugars and different things. You want the original product. Non-dairy plant milk, 10 grams of protein per serving of pea protein. Hey, that's pretty darn good. I put it in my smoothie in the morning, for example, and it has some fat in it. You need a certain amount of fat, good fat, okay? But regular whole milk is 50% fat from a cow, for example. That's too high, okay? And the total carbohydrate content, 1 gram. So there's no added sugar to it. So from a sugar standpoint, remember sugar is the booger and the hooker. That's what makes us gain weight, get diabetes, and we don't want to avoid sugar. But it has 10 grams of protein per plant protein per serving. Protein from animals makes our blood acidic, and that leaches calcium out of the bones and makes us osteoporosis. Okay, so you got to watch the amount of plant protein that you take in, because this protein from plants doesn't make your blood very much acidic. And it has also vitamin D and calcium, potassium, vitamin A, E, B12. So, and then, and all the protein came from plants. And it says on the bottle too, dairy-free. There's no dairy, no lactose, no nuts, no soy, and no gluten. So, to me, seems like pretty good. You can add it to the smoothies, put it in your coffee. That healthy. And like I said, I have no association with the company. And the industry makes us think that we're having a calcium crisis. But it was created by industry. Full-page ads in the New York Times. I saw them. I'm from New York, so I read the New York Times. And full-page ads, okay? They even had a calcium summit in New York City, all created by industry. But Harvard University studied 78,000 females, and they found the more milk they gave the females, the higher the fracture rate. Well studied, well published. Many other studies. I just mentioned this one. And so, why are humans the only species that drink the milk of another species? It makes no sense. It's the money. It's the money. Congressional lobbying, a government unwilling to stand up and protect us. Okay? Not uncommon. You see many other things going on around us where the government is not stepping up. Okay? It affects different racial groups differently. Okay? So African Americans, Latinos, Asians, and Native Americans are lactose intolerant. About 75% of blacks are intolerant of lactose. About 85% of the Japanese, about 100% of the Asians, they don't even drink milk there except from plants. In spite of this lactose intolerance, especially among the African Americans, higher than the white population, our government recommends 2 glasses of milk a day. I don't know if they changed that policy recently or not, but they did for a time. What do you think? I mean, that doesn't make any sense. Is that racial intolerance? Well, maybe so. Okay. Pediatricians especially are pushing milk at children a lot. They need to stop that. They just need to stop that and develop a national policy. Children do not need milk from cows. They need the milk from the mothers. Breastfeeding for 2 years would be a good thing. On the average now, 6 months. Remember what I told you about the bacteria that you need for your friends, your biome living in here, that vaginal births give to the baby, C-sections they don't. Maybe they could be working on that, promoting vaginal birth and speaking the truth about vaginal birth versus C-section. Some need it as an emergency, no doubt about it, but many it is elective. The patient needs to be informed. The provider needs to be honest about it. Could there be a conflict of interest? I don't know. I guess you make more money doing a C-section versus vaginal birth. I'm not saying that's a problem, but people who are having this done ought to get informed. Okay? Cornell University reviewed some studies, and 5 published studies. They found no relationship with milk and bone health. Mm-hmm. Yeah. When you talk to the average person, that's something, something they barely would believe. So we spoke about the racial inflection here, which is serious. So various species have different amount of protein in milk. Remember I said of these 5,400 species, they all have different proteins in their milk. Okay? Human, about 5% protein. Okay? A horse, 10%. A cow, 15%. A goat, 17%. A dog, 30%. A cat, 40%. A rat, 50%. You know why? That's why a rat can double its size in a few days, because of protein content. Mm-hmm. Yeah. It doesn't take 6 months like a human. A mouse, I think it's like 4 days because of different protein content. And so cow's milk and human diseases, I mean, what are the ones that we see fairly commonly? Acne, which I spoke to you about, personally affected me. And acne industry is making billions of dollars in procedures that they have for acne when they could first try cut out the milk. Give it a try. Not every case is due to that, but a lot of cases are due to that. And addiction is involved here, because remember I said some people, because of casomorphone, become addicted to cheese. I remember knowing somebody like that who also was diabetic because of that. Remember I said not every cheese, but a lot of cheese is 80, 70, 80% fat. So you can become addicted to it. And there are true allergies. There are much more people with sensitivity than allergy to it. So it can be either one. It's just like I think I'm sensitive to almond nuts. I'm not allergic to them, but I think my kidney stone I have occasion, I think is related to that. I ate a Brazilian nut one day, and the next day, I'm in Chicago, I got a kidney stone. Yeah, it's interesting. There's an increased rate of cataracts in milk drinkers. Interesting. And there are increased rates of all type of vascular disease related to moderate to heavy milk drinking, causing inflammation of our vasculature, higher rates of diabetes, related, I think, partly due to the sugar intolerance and insulin. There are increased rates of obesity among healthy, otherwise healthy individuals, because remember what I said, cow's milk has got in it 50 hormones. Yeah. And remember, they spray the cow with hormones, with growth hormones that cause increased rates of cancer, obesity, for example. So a number of chronic diseases associated with milk drinking, because if you're becoming obese, you're more likely to develop diabetes. That's got 50 diseases associated to it. So one of the first things I tell people is cut out the milk, cut out the gluten. A step in the right direction. The increased rates of cancer associated with milk consumption because of the growth hormone and the lactose sugar consumption, especially breast cancer is more common and people who drink a lot of milk. And we spoke already about the hormones, about the 50 hormones which run the metabolism of your body, are greatly affected by drinking milk, and the additional hormones that we give the animals whose milk that we are drinking. Some cases of MS has been considered associated with heavy milk drinkers. Tuberculosis could be a bit of controversy, but a lot of animals, humans that come down with TB were heavy milk drinkers. Mad cow's disease is another example where milk consumption is involved. And cow's milk in children's health is important. You have increased rates of type 2 diabetes. You know, we're always thinking that bacteria and viruses kill the pancreas and we get type 1 diabetes where we don't make any insulin, okay? Although type 1 diabetes, the kind that we're more likely to see in a child, is now much more common in adults. And the reason being, when that pancreas keeps on secreting insulin to get sugar into the cell for energy, and we have insulin resistance, and the insulin cannot get the sugar into the cell to open the door through these receptors, the insulin level goes up, and more gets secreted, Eventually, the pancreas says, I give up. Then you turn the adult type 2 diabetic into a type 1. The increased incidence of sudden infant death syndrome, SUDS, increased asthma, ear infection, which I already mentioned. And they're considering that autism may be partly related to milk consumption. At least it should be considered. There's a nice long article about that in Joe Keon's whitewash book on autism. Matter of fact, every disease I mentioned, there are multiple chapters describing those things in more detail, which would take too much time to discuss here. But I'm trying to open your mind. You must participate in your health care. And one way would be reading a book or looking online. And Crohn's disease and colic are known to be associated with heavy milk drinking. I mean, it's kind of interesting. And so I think we kind of summarized this fairly good for you at this point. And what about plant milk? And I think if you just add it to a little bit of coffee, but to drink milk regularly. I reviewed a book recently. It's called Body Love by Kelly, Evequue, I think. Evequeer. I think generally a good book. And she has smoothies in the beginning. And she will put in almost every smoothie a couple of cups of plant milk. And I use water, but if you wanted to use the plant milk, I mean, I could see the point that especially this pea milk here, 10 grams, that's quite a few grams of protein. Protein you need in your body. For one thing, you're not metabolizing sugar, and you need it for bone growth and cell growth and eyes and nails, and I think it's a good way to get. And we vary a little bit the amount of protein. Maybe a man 56 grams, female 46, somewhere in there. We all need some every day. But we want it from healthy foods, for example. Let me, if you want to see me about this in more detail, I'm speaking about this in Warsaw, 11 o'clock tomorrow. And at the Three Rivers Pharmacy in Fort Wayne, I see people for free on Fridays. You can call Sheila Walker, 373-986-5800. 1083. You will now see on the building, which I didn't put it there, actually Dr. Rudy's Wellness Center. If you have weight problems or preventing, stopping, reversing diabetes, I'm there. I can teach you how to prevent, stop, and reverse diabetes. I'll see you once a week or once every 2 weeks till you're rid of it. But you got to do something, not a diet, just a different way of eating. I'll teach it to you. We have an epidemic in this country, but especially in Indiana, maybe even more so in Allen County, of type 2 diabetes with 50 diseases attached to it. But I'm afraid not many people are stepping up to bat. I'm talking about us medical providers, government, public health, to give you the information to accomplish this. I personally don't think it's that hard. I do think in the last week or so, I've received information that some heavy hitters are going to get involved with this. Yeah. Let me start with a little bit. I'm going to review with you something called the Golden Opportunity. You can get a copy of this at the Three Rivers Pharmacy. If you are interested, the pharmacist was fascinated by it. Something I put together. I meant for this to be published in the Fort Wayne Medical Review. They publish every 3 months. An excellent thing. I gave this to them, and they said, well, it wasn't formatted like they like it. I didn't know what to make of that, because I gave them the opportunity to break out with preventing, stopping, reversing diabetes with all the clinical references, all the books, DVDs, whatever you need, and lead the way in Allen County, in the state, and maybe the nation. We're talking about probably 100 million people who got diabetes. They've not been diagnosed properly. And when I view this article with you, they're the secret diabetics. They're getting all the changes in their body while they're leading fairly normal lives, when we easily could prevent it by attacking this epidemic that's consuming us at right now, but also prevent it now. Children at a very young age, the amount of illness and sickness, including deaths, that we could avoid is incalculable. It's incalculable. But let's review the good news a little bit, okay? Good news is the latest president of Lutheran Health Network, Tony, has agreed to have a look at this. We're going to meet with me again in 2 weeks. And what I'm hoping is that Lutheran Hospital will embrace this and start playing big time, early testing, stopping, preventing. I think this will have tremendous effect on this community. Something very positive would have been done. But the information needs to come out there. I thought that was very good news. And also think I like what Sheila Walker's doing at the pharmacy, where we're seeing people for free. They don't just come there and here's your medication. No, your high blood pressure, your whatever the problem you got, diabetes, you'll be asked, would you like to watch one of Dr. Kachmann's YouTube shows which she has set up all these chairs. You sit down and you watch a YouTube show. How to prevent, stop, reverse diabetes or high blood pressure or whatever. And then he says, well, you want to see a doctor? Yeah. You see Dr. Kachmann for free. I mean, does it get better than that? I mean, I'm walking on clouds. Okay. So, but I'm going to read to you the Golden Opportunity letter, and you're welcome to write me, call me, look me at the pharmacy, send me a note there, whatever, because I'm about exchanging information. I'm not the last word in anything, but I'm backed up by a lot of research and a lot of literature. I'll tell you that. And to prevent the golden opportunity, I'm presenting you a golden opportunity. We all have friends who have diabetes or have some of the diseases. We all do. Everybody does. But it can be, but 6 weeks, you can get rid of diabetes 90% of the time. Not by diet, eating the right food. Let's start with that. So let's call it the golden opportunity. To prevent a disease, or at least to diagnose it early, should be our goal. Shouldn't that be it? Not just pill to the ill, to prevent it. We are missing the opportunity to identify and prevent about 90% of the people on the path to type 2 diabetes. We can prevent it. The same actually applies to type 1 diabetes. Type 1 is the kind where you make no insulin. Type 2 is where you make too much insulin, and the insulin is inflaming the whole body, causing these diseases. That's the real cause of it. If you want to read a book on that, read Joseph Kraft, K-A-R-F-T. You can see him on YouTube too. Very easy book. Read that. He ran the original scientific studies that proved it many years ago. Okay? When type 2 has been there for a long time, the pancreas gets worn out, no insulin is made, then the type 2 becomes type 1. You got it? 2. So after that, they need insulin as medication, but insulin has many side effects. It makes you gain weight. It makes things even worse. It inflames the body, increased rates of cancer. So insulin maybe think is saving you with the diabetes, but it's also harming you. Okay? So many scientific papers have been published since early 1970s. Yeah. Proving the point, it seems shameful that we have been missing a great opportunity. So I'm talking about, right? Of course, it didn't help that many well-known scientists, universities, and the government told us that eating too much fat was the problem when they knew better. It was sugar, the booger, and the hooker. Yeah, they said it was fat. It's industry lobbying. There was some money to be made here. The CDC and NIH were doing the same thing. The government was involved and still is supporting the price of sugar, fructose corn syrup, and giving $40 billion a year to the corn industry. And feeding a lot of it to the cows and the milk, and giving it free to the kids in schools because they make too much of it. Not helping us. Just read the multiple scientific peer-reviewed articles published by Dr. Kraft, K-R-A-F-T, in the 70s and 80s, 1970s and 80s. He was chairman of the Department of Clinical Pathology and Nuclear Medicine, University of Illinois in Chicago. St. Joe Hospital he was at mainly. He performed over 3,000 autopsies and ran glucose tolerance tests where you swallow fast, swallow sugar, and then you get a blood sugar 1 hour, 2 hour, maybe 3 if you want. And then you get serum insulin fasting 1 hour, 2 hour, okay? Remember I said the serum insulin goes up before the sugar because it has to work so hard to get sugar in the cell for energy. So the insulin's up. So what blood test should we be running? We should be running serum insulin test, not just blood sugar tests. So I suggest 2 tests. glucose tolerance test and insulin tolerance test. Same time, your insurance may want to pay for it. But I know a company, which I have no part of, called Any Test, who would charge probably $100. That's all. And you can just walk in, no doctor's order. Yeah, they've done it with a number of my patients. And I think we can bargain with the hospitals eventually and get that price down too. I'm not trying to recommend one place or the other, but cost is a problem. We have to consider cost. And I found this company in town. Yeah, very nice lady came to talk to me about it because I sent her a few patients. You got to know, do I have diabetes? Go to the 50 diseases associated with it. I want to know. And we need to have an open mind to change what we've been doing. Industry and government, including pharmaceutical companies, will not lead the way. But maybe Lutheran Hospital will. Mm-hmm. Maybe other hospitals will. And but I've been speaking about this for a long time. And Dr. Kraft said start testing kids starting at age 3. He recommends it, writing that Kraft book. I've been saying age 2 for 15 years. So I thought I was a bit pushy. But I think the Kraft book is confirmation what I've been saying. I like that. I like confirmation. And what he's saying, the earliest diagnosis of diabetes is neither by fasting blood sugar or the HbA1c, that's 3 months worth of sugars, but by the insulin assay test with a normal glucose tolerance test. The blood sugars are normal, but your serum insulin is elevated. And to top it all off, 99% of vascular disease, which can be visual problems, can be sexual problems, can be strokes, heart attacks, which can lead to amputations, for example, due to insulin. He proved it at autopsies. There's 3 pages where he describes in his book, very easy to read. So elevated serum insulin is the cause of 90% of vascular disease. So when they talk about heart surgery and stenting and all these things, which are important, save many lives. But a lot of it, when they leave the hospital, are these people told to eat a different way of eating, nutrient-dense way of eating, a nutrient way of eating, so the disease might go away and not recur. I don't see a lot of that. So in summary, I hope you've learned something about milk. Now I want you to help me to promote a different way of eating, okay? And help me with the diabetes thing, which I'll speak more about on the Comcast 57 6:30 Mondays on a regular basis. I've been doing that for over a year. So when we combine and teach wellness together, we can make a lot of people well by prevention, save you a lot of money, take you off a lot of pills. You probably live to be 100. I hope to see you there. I'm on Public Access TV, Comcast 57, 6 o'clock Wednesdays, 5:30, 6:30 Mondays, 95.7 Public Access FM, noon Tuesdays, and I think 6 p.m. Wednesdays, I believe. You can just go online and find that. So you got to participate in your health care. And if you feel like I'd like to learn some more, whether you can afford it or not, I don't charge. But even if you can have good insurance, I will not bill it. Come see me and discuss this further, and I'm willing to listen to other opinions. How I learn something every day. Tomorrow, incidentally, at 11 o'clock in Warsaw, I'm giving this same lecture. I will also include part of the lecture to be on gluten. So thanks for listening. We love you. And I hope you have a nice evening. Namaste. Challenged me to tennis or pickleball. I won 3 events in the city tennis tournament. No age. So I practice what I preach. But I do this largely because I care about you. I'm a doctor. Okay. We'll see you sometime. Bye-bye.